I remember once seeing an episode of Unsolved Mysteries where a police sergeant basically said that somebody had shot themselves 7 times in the head. And I thought, well, you might as well do this interview wearing your clan robes, mate, because it's quite obvious what's happened here, pal.
Close your eyes. It's midnight, and you're listening to the Ghost Story Guys. Welcome to the Ghost Story Guys. I'm Brennan Storr.
I'm Paul Bestall.
And this is the show where we talk about spooks, specters, and all the other things watching us from the shadows beyond the campfire. Some conversations only make sense after the sun has set, and this is most definitely one. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode number 229, and we're coming to you from that tiny mountain cabin you dream about, but can never quite reach. Paul Bestall, how are you doing?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. I'm not sleeping as much, so that's always all right.
That's a bonus. And not only are you're not sleeping as much, you have officially joined the list of people to grace the pages of the Fortean Times. Congratulations, my friend.
Yes. Well, thank you to Ruth, who wrote the article and was very kind about me. And the pictures were supplied by the lovely Ben, who was also one of the 2 photographers there, who was chewing their ears off most of the weekend as part of my larger drinking circle. It's still a bit strange. But, I mean, somebody's messaged me who works for Fortean Times and said it's about 5 years overdue, Paul.
Yep.
Which I thought was very nice.
It's very kind. They're not wrong, yes. But still very kind to hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant, man.
That's been a nice end to the year.
Absolutely. And if you are in our Facebook group, which is the Ghost Story Guys, finally made a group, you can see pictures of Paul in the Fortean Times. I'll also see what I can do about posting that over to Reddit, so folks can see that over there if they're not on Facebook, because it is very cool. Paul is standing at I think during the Strange Days Festival, at a Lectern of Skulls, and we decided on our most recent live stream that Lectern of Skulls was going to be our band name.
Yeah, Synthwave. We'll do an album inspired by the life of Klaus Kinski.
Oh, I don't know if we should. I don't know if that's maybe. Yeah, we'll workshop that. We'll workshop whether we're going to do anything that in any way honors Klaus Kinski. Of course, on this episode, we're going to be telling stories set in the dark and the cold of winter, because snow is falling here now in London, Ontario, and I'm forced to reckon with the fact this is going to be the next 6 months of my life. So, okay, fine. But before we get to the stories, I want to tell you about the series of coincidences I had that taught me all roads lead back to England.
As they should.
So recently, of course, I volunteered at the film festival, and someone there, one of my fellow volunteers, mentioned an Instagram account that reviews local food. So I checked it out, and that sent me to the Hungarian chimney cake sandwich shop that I told you about a while back. And while I was in that shop, this was in the town of St. Thomas, I heard someone talk about a place called Reed's Records. And they said, it's really great. It opened in March. Go check it out. So I kind of filed that away. And then 2 weeks ago on Saturday, I was getting ready to edit the show and decided I should take a walk before I settle down to work. And on my way to the elevator, I ran into one of the resident managers of the building along with his wife. So we got chatting in the elevator all the way down to the ground floor, out to the back door. We're still chatting. Then the conversation kind of reached its natural conclusion. But it became obvious we were all going to be walking the same direction. And there was no way in hell I was doing that, because that was going to be too awkward.
Yes.
So I pretended like I'd been intending to go to my car every time, the whole time, because I'm a psychopath. Walked to my car. Now I'm standing at my car thinking I was going to go for a walk, but now I guess I'm getting in the car. Okay. Got in the car and thought I just had no plans to go anywhere. Where are we going? And I thought, well, let's go check out that record shop in St. Thomas. Yeah. So I went down there, and it turned out that it happened to be the first day that they were selling coffee in the shop. It's a lovely space, folks. If you live in Southern Ontario, Reed's Records in St. Thomas is really a nice space. It's still very early on. He's kind of developing it. I think it's going to be an extremely cool little indie shop. I mean, it's cool already, but I think it's got a ton of potential. But anyways, I get to the record shop. It's the first day selling coffee. It's the Union General Coffee Company. They're a local roastery. So I go over, start chatting with John, who is selling coffee. Well, I'm there talking to this guy for probably an hour and a half, the poor son of a bitch. but it turns out he is from Hove.
Ah, South Coaster, eh?
Yeah, and so I've gone back now every Saturday they're there. So I've gone back a couple weeks now and shot the shit with him, and he's got this young fellow working there, Max, who's a really nice kid. And yeah, it's just great conversation, great coffee, and again, England. You know, if I want a great conversation, it seems I got to go to England.
Yeah, we are good at that.
It's true. All right, so yes, all roads for me lead to England. But on this episode, we are actually going to be spending most of our time in the U.S., along with a couple stories, or at least one story from India that is particularly creepy, and all of which are set in the midwinter because, well, all right, we're technically at the beginning of winter, but it already feels like it's gone on too long.
Well, it's the last super moon of the year today as well.
Oh, okay.
We had some lovely moon dogs last night. Gorgeous.
And what is a moon dog?
It's the same as a sundog, if you know what a sundog is.
I do not.
So basically, it's all down to ice crystals in the upper atmosphere, and dependent, they will form a halo around the sun or the moon or either side of it, sometimes causing sort of like some weird sort of refraction. And it's just the ice crystals reflecting the light. And so it gives this giant halo of it. And I stuck a picture of it on my Instagram yesterday. I love them, me. Sundogs and moon dogs especially, because they just look a bit more, whoa, marvellous.
All right. Well, I learned what a moon dog is. Although you're never going to convince me the moon is real, so nice try. But, you know.
I'm just surprised all that cheese is so reflective.
And as we ponder exactly what cheese is that reflective, we're going to thank our patrons.
This one's for the patrons.
Patrons, we could not do what we do, namely ponder cheese and tell ghost stories, without you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. For real, guys. Every single person who downloads the Ghost Story Guys, you make us who we are. But patrons, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube subscribers, without you, we couldn't do this at all. And while we'd like to thank every single one of you, we would especially like to thank our latest subscribers, and we will do that on our next episode, on episode 230, our Christmas show. So if you have subscribed recently, or if you will be subscribing, you will be thanked at the beginning of episode 230, which will be released on December 23rd. But for now, again, thank you from the bottom of our terrible hearts. And if you want to get access to bonus episodes, early ad-free release, our monthly live stream, our Ghost Force shoutouts, and so much more, click the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. You can also become a friend of the cabin on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. All right, Paul. All this coffee talk has made me thirsty, so I'm going to go make a fresh cup, and then we will dive right into Stories of the Haunted Midwinter.
The Tunnel. A few years ago, I visited Harbin during the coldest part of winter. The city was covered in deep snow, and the air was sharp and dry. Walking through the streets, everything felt quiet and still, the kind of stillness that comes with extreme cold. I had come as a tourist, interested in both the city's architecture and its history, and one site in particular stood out on the map: the Unit 731 Museum. Unit 731 was a former covert military facility operated by the Imperial Japanese Army during World War II. It served as a research base for biological warfare, and inside human experiments were conducted. Thousands of people, many of them civilians and prisoners of war, died as a result, and the museum is located on the original site of the compound. It's very quiet, with minimal signage and no background music. The lighting is dim, and many areas of the building have been left in their original condition. The displays include photos, documents, and preserved medical tools. At one point, the guide pointed to a stairway leading underground and said, "That tunnel leads to the prisoner cells. You may go down alone if you'd like." I chose to go. The stairs creaked as I descended, and the tunnel was narrow, the walls damp, and the air was colder than above. I had a flashlight, but the beam was weak and flickering. Water dripped steadily from the ceiling, and the passage echoed faintly with each step. And after a while, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned and saw no one. I assumed it might be another visitor or an echo. Continuing forward, I heard another sound, faint, possibly even a voice. It resembled a quiet whisper. Unclear. Probably mother in Chinese. I remained still for a moment, and the sound stopped. Then I heard what sounded like a slow exhale close to my ear. At that point, I turned and walked back up the stairs. Back in the main building, I told a member of staff about what I'd experienced, and she didn't appear surprised. She said to me, "Many people hear things in that tunnel. Some things stay, even when they've gone." And there was no further explanation. I left the museum shortly afterwards, and though I don't claim to understand what I heard or felt, the visit to Unit 731 left an impression, not through horror or theatrics, but through the weight of documented history and the preserved space. It's a reminder of what human beings are capable of, and why some places should be preserved and never forgotten.
I actually struggled with whether or not to put that one in the show, just because Unit 731 is such a heavy topic.
Yes.
Folks, if you don't know, basically, we're not going to get deeply into it, but because I was saying when I was writing up the notes, there's really no way to like get into what 731 is with it on a comedy podcast and come back from it.
Precisely.
If you folks want to know more about the topic, there are 3 books that are recommended by the Pacific Atrocities Education Group.
And Devil's Gluttony would be one, I suspect.
I suppose it would be. Yeah, absolutely. There's, Seiichi Morimura's Akuma no Hoshoku, The Devil's Gluttony. That was published in 1981. And that was, of course, what brought Unit 731 to light, because for a very long time, no one really knew about it.
Yeah, I've read that.
Oh, you have? Oh, God.
I read it as part of my A-level history.
Oh, that must be a nightmare.
It's the Japanese version of Auschwitz.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. That's what I mean. Like the little I read was nightmarish enough, and I haven't read like a whole book on it.
I mean, as we've said several weeks ago, things like this amaze me about the amount of stuff that went on in the Pacific that people, I do not understand why some of it's just not as well known as the stuff that happened in Europe, especially for the Americans, because the vast majority of their conflict was in the Pacific.
I'm sure there's a warren of complex, sort of social reasons, but I think a big part of it is the fact that until 81, at least, like the Unit 731 stuff was just not known. Like that's such a short amount of time for that to have entered the public consciousness. And I think because it's a completely different language, it's a completely different culture. And I mean, part of me thinks it's because the victims were Chinese.
There's a lot to do with that, I think. I mean, it's not just Chinese as well. I mean, they eradicated large swathes of, Burma, Thailand, Vietnam, China, everywhere they landed. And like I've said before, they got as far across as India.
And like I said, yeah, as Paul mentioned, Devil's Gluttony is a book you folks can read if you want to know more about that. There's also, again, the trilogy of books mentioned by the Pacific Atrocities Education Group are Unit 731, The Forgotten Asian Auschwitz by Derek Pua, Marutas of Unit 731 by Jenny Chan, and Unit 731 Cover-Up, The Operation Paperclip of the East by Hattie Beckham and Mirja Pakonen.
I think I might sue that man for calling it the Asian Auschwitz. Is he reading my mind?
We'll talk to our Ghost Story Guys lawyer, our official Ghost Story lawyer.
Colonel Tom Parker, are you there?
We'd have as much luck with Harvey Birdman, attorney at law. Briefly, I actually first became aware of 731 because of a film. I haven't seen it. I won't see it. But it's called The Men Behind the Sun. It's a Hong Kong horror film about what happened. And it's legendarily nasty. So folks, unless you've really got a thing for sick shit, don't watch it. It was actually the film that created, as I understand it, it created Hong Kong's Category 3, which was kind of like their NC-17 or their X rating. Because they're like, I've got a collection of Vinegar Syndrome box sets of Category 3 films, and I've seen a few of them now. None of them are as fucked up as Men Behind the Sun. And this is a group of films that includes Ebola Syndrome, which is close, Erotic Nightmares, which is super gross, and a couple others as well. But Men Behind the Sun, from what I understand, based on what I've read and what little I've seen, it sits comfortably atop them all. So buyer beware.
Yes, its reputation does precede it for those in the horror genre.
Yes, exactly. I will say on a much happier note though, I did not know anything about Harbin in China.
Yeah.
And it is called apparently the Ice City because it can get down to about -25 in the winter. And they have a really spectacular ice festival, which if you check the script, there's a link. There's some very cool pictures. They do ice sculptures. It just looks incredible. So, go to Harbin and check out the ice festival before global warming fucks it all up for us.
Oh, the Yeren come out.
Oh, yeah, well, you got to watch out for the Yeren. Absolutely.
There aren't many. Hairy cryptids got their own part, mate.
That's true.
I mean, people should know more about Harbin. It's one of those places that I'm very surprised because it's enormous. It's massive. Millions of people live there, But it's also it's really odd because...
Interesting. How so?
There's loads of Russian-inspired architecture there.
Oh, okay.
It had the largest Russian population outside of Russia for years.
Interesting. Are you aware of what about it draws the Russians?
It was always classed as a center of Russian imperialism in China, strangely enough. And obviously, the Chinese were quite late to come to the collective power that they had. And so they were sort of working their way around all the provinces going, hang on, what's going on here? You're Chinese. Come here. And so by the time they got to Harbin, basically it was I think there was something like 100,000 Russians living there. So all their architecture looks like St. Petersburg.
Oh,
so there's giant Russian palaces and all sorts around it. It's one of those places that if you didn't know it was in China, you would presume some of it, depending on which part of the city they show you, you would suspect it was there. But the other aspect of all this is the other thing about the Second World War is Japan invaded that in 1931.
Oh.
Hitler didn't take power till 1933.
Of course, yeah.
So they were already on their way by that point.
I had no idea it started that early.
Absolutely. Well, it was always going to happen there because, like the Russian-Japanese war that most people aren't aware of and all that shit at the beginning of the 20th century. And thousands of people died and all that kicking off. So the Japanese were always going to come back.
Was that the Sino-Soviet war?
Yes.
See, I didn't sleep through all of history class, just most of it.
Well done. Yeah, about 1908, 1909, I think.
Man, no, it's history, full of surprises and nightmares. By the fire. I will have to start by saying that this is the first time anything like this has ever happened to me or my girlfriend. I wouldn't say I'm a skeptic as such, but after watching Derek Akora's joke TV shows, one tends not to believe the tripe churned out on the box. Anyhow, I digress. The instance I'm referring to happened on the 1st of December, 2013 at Doubleton Hall near Evesham. My fiancé and I were spending one night in the hotel, courtesy of an offer via Travelzoo. We arrived, checked in, unpacked, and got ready for evening dinner, the table being booked for 7 p.m. Having finished our 3-course meal, we took our wine glasses from the restaurant and intended on sitting in the bar area. Unfortunately, the prime seats in front of the log burner were taken, so we decided to sit in 2 armchairs in front of the open fire in the large reception area. Both wine glasses were put on the small round table opposite the fire and our chairs, some 8 inches approximately from the edge of the table. We chatted, watched the logs burning, and then the next thing I knew, my fiancée jumped into a standing position with wine dripping from the right-hand side of her dress, and the chair was soaked too. The glass in question was on its side on the table, having made no sound on hitting the table. There was no wine on the table nor on the carpet next to the chair my fiancé had been sitting in. At the time, neither of us were any closer than 2 feet from the glasses. The only thing I could liken this to would be if someone had picked the glass up and thrown the contents of my fiancée and placed the glass on the table. Bizarre. As we discussed the strange event, I went for my glass. This had moved some 8 inches, and as we watched, it reached the edge of the table and began to overhang it. I then picked it up and drank the contents. The table was totally dry, and the bottom of the glass too. I asked at reception if anyone had reported similar events. None had. On our return home, my girlfriend found a TripAdvisor report from November 2012, citing similar glass-related strangeness. A great stay, made interesting.
I think they've got a white lady there, haven't they? It's probably her. She probably disagreed with the choice of vino.
Oh, okay. I love that the ghost is kind of moralistic about this. Either moralistic about drinking wine, or as you say, she's a bit of a wine connoisseur.
Maybe they were drinking some crap.
It reminds me, my friends, their dog, she's wonderful. They've had her for a long time. She's very judgmental, and she does not approve of smoking of any kind. So one day, I was out for a walk. I was smoking a joint, and I happened to run into them as they were taking her out for a walk. Now, normally she gets very excited when she sees me. She's very, she wags, and she doesn't get close because she's skittish around men, but she likes to see me. Well, I was smoking. She would not look at me. She looked at me once and then just like I had offended her family somehow. And my friend said, "Oh yeah, she hates smoking. She does not approve." So she ignored me the whole, even after I threw it away. She's like, "Nope."
I think it's obvious what the reason was.
What's that?
It was the reincarnated spirit of Alan Carr in that dog.
Alan Carr?
Do you not know? Well, Alan Carr is a man who became a multi-millionaire by writing How to Stop Smoking books.
Oh, okay. No, this is outside of my frame of knowledge.
70s and 80s.
Okay.
He was the guy that said he'd got like 100 million people off cigarettes or something. Maybe that's why the dog's got such a dislike of people who smoke, because it's actually the reincarnated spirit of Alan Carr.
Makes as much sense as anything, I suppose.
I'd look into that.
Yeah. I'm going to be like those guys who go to the reincarnated Buddha with a bunch of toys and he has to pick it out, I'm like, chew toy, microphone, cigarette. Yeah.
I don't know.
Alan, is that you? Shouting into her open mouth. Alan, can you hear me? So what was his method?
He was all about positive reinforcement and breaking the psychological cycles. It was quite groundbreaking at the time.
Oh, okay.
He was one of the first people to really be upfront and honest. This is the most addictive drug on the planet, and it's killing everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was like I think he was one of the first worldwide self-help gurus.
Oh, okay. Oh, so okay, 100 million, maybe not crazy then.
Yeah, it was worldwide, but I think he was American, Alan Carr.
Oh,
Alan with an E, I think it is.
Interesting.
But yeah, he was one of those people that began to appear in the 70s, like the mad keep fit man.
Oh, Jim Fix.
Yeah.
Now Jim Fix, of course, famously died of a heart attack. Did Alan Carr die of like a cigarette strangling him or something?
I don't know. Let's find out. Oh, in fact, he was British. I didn't know that. I did not know he was British. I always presumed he was American. He died less than 20 years ago, 2006. He was a groundbreaking researcher in psychological dependency. Born in Putney, London, Carr started smoking cigarettes whilst doing national service aged 18. He qualified as an accountant in 1958. Quite why that's mentioned, I'm not sure. Carr finally stopped smoking on the 15th of July, 1983, aged 48, after a visit to a hypnotherapist. However, it was not the hypnotherapy itself that enabled him to stop. I succeeded in spite of and not because of that visit. I lit up as soon as I'd left and made my way home. He said there were 2 parts of information that were given to him in that initial meeting that enabled him to stop later on in the day. And firstly, the first was that smoking was simply nicotine addiction, which he'd never comprehended before, i.e. he was an addict. And secondly, his son John lent him a medical handbook which explained that the physical withdrawal from nicotine is just like an empty, insecure feeling, And he claimed that these two realizations coming together on the same day crystallized in his mind just how easy it was to stop, and so then enabled him to follow an overwhelming desire to explain his method to as many smokers as possible.
It's a fascinating realization to be able to kind of have that, like, okay, so I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but my friend used to tell me this story about his cat Maestro, and they had a laser pointer, and they would play. Maestro loved chasing the red dot until one day Maestro looked up and saw the laser pointer in their hands, and it was like he suddenly figured out where it was coming from, and he no longer gave a shit about it. And it's like that. It's like, oh, I understand why this is happening. I'm not doing this shit anymore.
Strangely, you were onto something. In 2006, Carr was diagnosed with lung cancer. His spokesman stated that this may not have been linked to his historical smoking, because he'd been stopped 23 years. But he'd also been around smokers throughout the rest of his career, and it was probably secondhand smoke that he developed lung cancer through. He did state in his book that the easiest way to control alcohol, that he was a chain smoker for most of his adult life, smoking between 40 and 60 cigarettes a day.
Oh, god damn.
I mean, lots of people said he was a quacker or whatever, but they did tests in 2020 and proved that his methods are still 3 times more successful than any other clinical support today.
Jesus Christ.
So the proof is in the pudding with Alan Carr.
Isn't it fucking wild, though, that something which is so addictive is still just a thing you can walk into a shop and buy?
Well, I've always, as an ex-smoker, I've always said that, right? If you want to do it, ban it. Don't play about it. I mean, cigarettes here are very expensive.
Here too.
How many dollars are there in the Canadian dollars in the pound? Is it 600?
Something like that. Yeah. Whenever I have to send you something in the mail, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, it's like the old days of lira. They won't bother giving you change. It's no point, mate. Can't buy anything with 130 lira.
But yeah, no, it's crazy. Like, I understand raising the price, but that almost seems more diabolical. You get people hooked on something, then you just keep making it more expensive. I feel like that's fucked up. That's not helping anyone.
Absolutely.
It's like here, I don't know if they've done that there, but here with smokes, they used to have all this like very colorful packaging. Back when I worked in my family store, people would say, I'll export a gold, export a green, or, you knew Du Maurier by the little red pouch or whatever. Players by the white and blue. Now they're all featureless. It's like New Jack City, or not New Jack City. So it's like Free Jack. Everything's just like white packaging saying cigarettes.
No, ours are pictures of people's body parts falling off. And
oh, yeah. Yeah, I think they also might have those as well. They used to. I don't know if they still do. I assume they do. I haven't bought cigarettes in a...
Yeah, there's all parts of diseased bodies on our cigarette packets here in the UK. Toes, lungs, mouth, face, children.
Yeah, if you smoke, you could end up with children.
Well, kids used to smoke in my junior school.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
One of the teachers once caught one chap, Mark Ibbotson was his name, and they dragged him into the bathroom and they rammed a bar of soap in his mouth. And then sent him home. And then they sent him home, and we all went into the school toilet and looked at the bar of soap with his teeth marks still embedded in it.
I still don't think society was better when teachers could beat the shit out of kids.
And it was a woman teacher.
It doesn't matter. Hitting kids is just bad.
She didn't
it's
hit
just
him.
bad.
She just rammed some soap in his mouth. There's a difference.
Nope.
If he hadn't have smoked, Brennan, it wouldn't have happened. It's his fault. He brought this on himself.
Why do you make me hit you? Yeah. No, I swear to God, man. If someone had put hands on me when I was a kid, I would have burned their house down. I have that thing where, like, if someone who I do not want to touch me touches me, I become very, very unpleasant. I almost physically assaulted someone who slapped my ass during a baseball game. Like another player. He'd been chirping me the whole game. And finally, I was pitching. And he came in, he slapped me on the ass, and I went after him. And my teammates had to grab me and stop me. And I tell you, he didn't do it again. But I would have fucking killed him.
Is that guy they found with that baseball bat rammed up him dead in the car park?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm sure it's not. That's total coincidence. And, I would just say, unless you want to visit from my friend Joe Camel or Mr. Baseball Bat, you should drop the subject.
He just fell on it, officer.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, a few times.
The wolf. My story took place just outside my hometown of Beckley, West Virginia, and it happened in the winter of last year, and it hasn't been off my mind since. My girlfriend and I go to an outpatient treatment centre for opiate addiction. Yes, I've made some mistakes in my life as a teenager, and I became hooked on OxyContin. I'm not proud of it, but since starting treatment, I've remained clean, and I'm proud to say that. And good for you, mate. Keep going. A lot of days we're out there at 5 or 6 a.m, and the centre is about 2 miles off the interstate exit down a wooded dead-end road with a few other businesses around it. It can be a really dark road before the sun comes up, and on this particular day it was about 6 a.m. and still dark. It was very cold as it was winter, and there was a little bit of snow out. We were about halfway to the centre of the exit when we noticed someone ahead of us walking the shoulder on the opposite way of our travel, so they were facing us. I figured it must be another patient walking home from the centre, and I actually said to my girlfriend, "See if you know who that is, and maybe we can pick him up." The speed limit on the road is around 50 miles an hour, so with the snow I was probably going around 35 miles or so, and when we first noticed them walking, they were probably a good 30 feet ahead of us in the car headlights. As we approached, I slowed down to get a good look at them to see if we did know them, and as I came up to them, the figure stopped and turned its head to us. And what I saw, to this day, terrifies me. It had a dark coloured clothing, what looked like a hoodie of some kind, but its face wasn't human. It had the biggest, most evil smile on its face that I've ever seen, and I mean, it was huge. The smile literally went from one side of the face to the other, and its teeth were enormous. Not sharp, they were human-like, but way too big to be so. It looked almost cartoonish, and I remember my girlfriend saying, "Oh my God," but I wasn't sure she was seeing what I was. Needless to say, we didn't stop. Then Ashley said, "Did you see that?" I said yes, and I turned the car around in a wide spot and we went back. We had to try and figure this out. Now, from the time that we saw this figure, turned around and got back to where it was maybe 20 seconds at most. And it was gone. I swear to you, it was gone. There was nowhere for this thing to go. There is a tall chain link fence with barbed wire at this spot between the road and the edge of the woods, so they couldn't have dipped into the trees. I mean, it was just 20 seconds. And after we couldn't find it, I asked Ashley to describe to me what she'd seen, and she said an oversized Joker smile, and I knew then that she'd seen the same thing as me. We've talked about this with each other 100 times, and it's always the same story. We've never seen it again, and now I don't know what it was, but I know it wasn't human. It looked and felt evil. I know, to answer some questions, obviously, a mask is the first thing to enter my mind, but I can assure you, it wasn't. I saw that mouth move, like the last bit of the smile form. And as I said, there was just no place for a person to hide in that amount of time. It was impossible. And no, I didn't check for tracks, and I really wish I had. I just don't know what to think of it. I found out that others have had experiences on that road, not like mine, but there was one when a truck driver had a ghost turn up in his cab. We haven't seen anything since, but it's still on my mind all this time later.
And so that one is really interesting because I don't know that I've ever heard of something quite like that. The image it put in my head was The Man Who Laughs.
Yes, Conrad Veidt.
That's it. Yeah. Which was, I think, based on a Victor Hugo novel.
Yes, and is the inspiration for the Joker.
Of course. Have you heard of something like that, like a toothy? Because for some reason in my head, I was thinking like a more wolf-like appearance, but it's really not. It's just like an exaggerated human face.
I've heard people describe encountering entities with very large smiles that indicate that this isn't human because the mouth's too big.
Right.
But not with human teeth. Usually with sharp, pointy teeth, jagged teeth. Some shadow people encounters have that kind of appearance. Some people have claimed to meet elementals or whatever that look of a similar nature. It is peculiar, and like the author says, You know, the first thing you would suggest is a mask. But once again, you work on the principle of what is the point of trying to prank somebody at 6 a.m. in the middle of winter on the off-ramp of a motorway? Who would be there? Why would you be doing that? What is the point of pulling a prank there? What are the chances of bumping into somebody at 6 a.m. on a snowy day?
That's it. I mean, I've heard about people who will do sort of elaborate pranks, but usually they're things set up that someone will find when they find them, not like this person's just going to sit there and wait.
Yeah.
And also, where would they have gone? Like the narrator says, you know, it is 6 a.m. It's in the middle of the winter. Where the hell did they go?
And what's the reason for it? Why would you bother?
And of course, that was a Reddit story. No, it wasn't a Reddit story. We found that elsewhere. Luke found that elsewhere. But someone else responded to them. And they said, I'm not a ghost chaser or necessarily even a believer, but this person's description is nearly identical to an experience my wife and I had on a rural West Virginia highway just east of Mount Storm back in 1992, 20 years ago and hundreds of miles away from where this incident happened. The thing we saw, I cannot call it human, fits the above description perfectly. We saw it at night, and the apparition we saw was seated on the guardrail instead of walking. Pretty much the same clothing as in 2012. It grinned at us with an expression that could only be called malevolent, and it had inhumanly large teeth and an impossibly wide mouth. Both of us were disturbed by the sight of this thing, and we both remember it well. So again, it's someone else, unless it's an elaborate prank, a really elaborate prank in multiple spots across 20 years, which, I mean, God, kudos to someone for being able to stick with anything that long. I get sick of things after about 6 weeks.
I mean, the other aspect of this is West Virginia is an open carry state.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You don't need, you just have to, I think you can conceal carry. So it's a gun-friendly state, which is one of those things that often, when you look at these encounters, like you say, a prank, if you're going to do something like that has the potential to terrify somebody out of their wit, there would be a real chance that that person may shoot you.
Yep.
So then again, why on earth would you take the risk?
You know, that reminds me, once when I was in West Virginia, I was late at night, I was trying to find my way out of this small town, and I thought, maybe I'll just pull into this person's driveway to turn around because the road was quite narrow. Yeah. And I thought, no, I absolutely will not, because this is a well-armed state, and I do not feel like getting shot today.
Well, I suppose some people out there will be screaming at us saying, well, it's obvious who it is. What's West Virginia's most famous high strangeness case?
Got to be the Mothman.
Correct. And who's one of the characters attached to the Mothman story?
Indrid Cold?
And how is Indrid Cold described?
Now that I do not remember.
He is a tall, pale-faced man with an almost demonic grin that seems to cover most of his face.
Motherfucker.
So, who knows? Did they meet Indrid? Or was it someone channeling Indrid? Or was it something connected to Indrid? Who knows? But I thought as soon as I saw the words West Virginia and the description of the character, the first thing that popped into my head was, well, sounds like it could be Indrid Cold's lad.
Yeah.
Which is ironic that you would see a demonically grinning weird thing on a cold day.
Oh, shit, you're right. Huh. Okay, wow, damn, no, that completely caught me off guard. I didn't make the connection at all. I remember Indrid Cold, but not his appearance.
Yeah, he's described Keel, I think, was it Woody Derenberger?
Yeah.
That begins the Indrid Cold thing. I think it's that description that he says that's what cold looks like.
I'll be damned. Okay. Well, before we move on to the next story, I bookmarked something else here to do with Beckley, West Virginia, because I thought it was just kind of an interesting coincidence. Of course, as I was saying to you, I just did a spot on Soraya's show talking about shadow people. And there are rumors of a shadow person on Gray Flats Trail outside Beckley. Apparently, it's always been like a reasonably popular hiking spot. But for some reason, as soon as rumors of a shadow person came around, the number of fucking people going there just went through the roof, because I guess people are insane. You know, it's not just woods, it's haunted woods. But it is apparently an acknowledged and growing phenomenon, according to an October 24th news article I read. And I guess there's an old homestead off in the bush somewhere, and so some people think it's got something to do with that, but no one seems to know. And not as many people seem to be seeing it now. So it's, was it ever there, or was it too many people now kind of crowding it out?
West Virginia's got two of the best weird cases of the 20th century for me, anyway, with Mothman and Flatwoods.
Of course, yeah, I forgot about Flatwoods.
Beautiful Braxy, terrifying kids and dogs, and passing motorists. Well, why not? One of my favourite. In fact, I'm a bit more of a fan of Flatwoods case than I am Mothman. I think Flatwoods is just so odd.
What aspect of Flatwoods do you find most odd?
The whole description of the creature. It's never been anything like that's never been described.
And for folks who don't know, can you give a quick description?
Essentially, it's a giant robot, insect-like creature that was estimated to be between 9 and 12 foot tall. Some witnesses described it hovering. Some said it looked like it was moving. And essentially, it seemed to be a giant sort of like it was wearing a long gown with long pointy arms, a big round head, bright red, and emitting strange noxious gases and a strange low rumbling noise that terrified the onlookers. And obviously there are two Flatwoods accounts. There are two incidents. There isn't just the kids and the mum or whoever she was and the dog that didn't die. Okay, let's just clear that up. Still, people say the dog died. It didn't fucking die. Do your research.
It's as persistent a myth as the horse dying in Never-Ending Story.
Yes, that's because people don't, as it's one of those things, people remember the clip, not the film.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people's memories of the Never-Ending Story are based on clips they see on the internet, not actually sitting down and watching that film again, which I find remarkable, really.
It's a fabulous movie.
It is. It's your typical 80s kids adventure film. It's frightening, it's exhilarating, and good wins out at the end. But it rings it out, yeah, It's like The Princess Bride. Everybody forgets. We all think the hero dies in that.
I've only ever seen that movie once.
Oh, you should watch it more and then realise how lovely the locality is around me, because that's all filmed in the Peak District.
Well, speaking of Princess Bride, before we move on to the next story, I found this clipping of Andre the Giant. And he was way ahead of his time. The clipping says, it's a quote from Andre. "I don't like to speak badly of people. I have grown up thinking and being told that if you cannot say something nice about someone, you should not say anything at all. But I must break that rule in this case because I hate Hulk Hogan very much. He is a big ugly goon, and I want to squash his face."
Hey, anybody that plays Bigfoot and the Bionic Man can say what he wants.
There's a great story, actually. I read a book a few years back by the wrestler Kamala, who has since passed on, but he described having some issues with Andre, but one of the things the issues he didn't have was one that Hulk Hogan had, apparently, because I guess he was approached by Hogan in the locker room one day and Hogan looked kind of scared. And now bear in mind, Hulk Hogan himself was a very large man, but he said to Kamala, "Hey brother, has Andre checked your oil yet?" And apparently Andre hated Hulk Hogan so much that sometimes when they were wrestling, he would jam his thumb up his ass. And a 7-foot man does not have small thumbs. We're going to leave you with that image, folks. We're going to take a break for some ads so we can recover. A night in Appalachia. My girlfriend and her friends invited me to stay at a small cabin Airbnb in the Appalachian Mountains near Seven Devils. The idea was just to go up there to enjoy some snow tubing and then some light drinking, hot tub, and board games in the cabin afterwards. The cabin was pretty high up in the mountains, and the drive up to it was kind of scary. A single car-length road for the most part, no railings, and a sheer drop on one side. Sure, if we drove off the road, we'd likely be stopped by some trees on the way down. I don't think that's optimistic. But still nerve-wracking. Another thing was some of the trees on the trail had faces on them for decoration. I really should have taken pictures, but was too anxious during the climb. The cabin itself was almost at the top of the mountain and fairly small. A small living room with a very tiny and narrow kitchen and 2 bedrooms. Hot tub on the lower porch because the cabin itself was basically on the 2nd floor, so you had to go up a stairway to get into it. The key to the cabin was in a lockbox, so no special door lock option, just an old-fashioned cabin. We came back after snow tubing and dinner. The others drank enough to get buzzed, whilst I only had a glass of wine, since I have a condition that makes it dangerous to get too much alcohol in my system. We enjoyed the hot tub as planned, witnessed a beautiful shooting star, then played board games after that until around 1 a.m., and then we all went to bed. I woke up a little after 4 a.m. because I was suddenly sweating and felt unsettled. I decided I needed to go to the bathroom, so I left the bedroom and nothing seemed amiss. When I left the bathroom, the front door was wide open. Naturally, I immediately felt uneasy. But again, this was a small cabin, so there was nowhere for any intruder to hide. I could easily see the entire interior of the cabin from the tiny hallway. I decided maybe the last person through the door last night after the hot tub didn't fully close it and lock it properly, because there is a sign by the door that says "close door firmly." It was windy outside, and it was like howling out there. So I went over to the door and closed it, making sure it was firmly enough in the doorway to fully lock it. I even jiggled the handle a few times and tried to see if it would open when locked. It didn't budge, so I started to head back to the room. Then I heard the door rattle a little, and I turned around and stared at it. I watched as the lock turned itself, and then the door opened. And it didn't slam open from the wind. It just slowly swung open. I stayed extremely still, because, of course, that is crazy. The door has a huge clear window on it with no curtains, and a big window beside it that also doesn't have curtains, and there was absolutely no one on the other side of it. There's no way someone could have ducked out of view either and hurried away from the door after pushing it open, because they would have made a lot of noise hurrying down the steps to get off the walkway. Like I said, it was an old-fashioned door as well, with a simple lock and knob. No electronic buttons or anything to unlock or lock by buttons or remotely. After working up the nerve to close the door again and locking it firmly, nothing else happened that night. I couldn't really go back to sleep because I was too scared to do so. The following morning, I told the others about it, and they were pretty spooked too, but otherwise glad we were only staying that one night. Before we packed up the truck to leave, there was a strange knocking noise coming from the surrounding woods. Not like knocking on a wall or door. It was a deep, hollow-sounding knock that only knocked twice, stopped for a while, and then would do it again. Maybe it was just trees knocking together, but after what happened early in the morning like that, it was unsettling. So, I'm from Florida, and even though I've experienced other paranormal activity before, that was the most physical thing I've experienced. And, I've heard plenty of weird stories about occurrences in the Appalachians. In a way, I'm glad I experienced something, but man, I will never forget the fear I felt. After all, my first thought was an intruder or something, and it would have been pretty bad being up there so high by ourselves. If we'd had any reason to run, we could easily have fallen off a cliff or something in the pitch-black darkness outside. And, for a number of reasons, I felt this guy's plight so very hard. I remember the very first time Nick and I went to Yosemite National Park, we took a bus tour from San Francisco. And now you go on some narrow-ass roads getting up there, and boy, oh boy, on a giant tour bus, when you are just swinging back and forth between a rock wall and the yawning void that is the sheer rock face on the other side, you start getting yourself right with Jesus real quick.
Yes, you've never really lived, I think, unless you've been in a minibus driving too fast through the mountains of Turkey at 5 a.m. as you plough through the Taurus. Yeah, great laugh. You've not been to bed for 24 hours. You're tired. God. Your plane's been delayed 6 hours because some dickhead went mental on a flight from Germany, which thankfully the British Transport Police performed for everybody in the waiting rooms at Manchester Airport, so we could all watch the drama unfold rather than sat there thinking, what's going on? And we'd turn around, that's what's going on. There's loads of armed police surrounding that plane. Brilliant.
Well, at least you had something to watch while you waited.
This was very true. And then we got to Turkey and made it for breakfast, 8 hours late.
Oh.
And it was 36 degrees already. Brilliant.
So we get you, anonymous internet guy. We get you.
Yeah, it's harem scarum journeys. Yeah, I'm a bit woo.
God, and the faces. That's what I'm talking about in terms of like pranks. Putting faces on the trees on your. Come on, you're just that's the devil himself. Just going out for a walk and thinking, you know what, I'm gonna ruin someone's night, and just putting a bunch of. I should do that actually. I should just go put a bunch of doll faces on trees. Of course, then I have to be the guy who's going into Goodwill and buying a bunch of dolls. No one wants to be that guy.
Have you seen that video doing the rounds of that mum who said Dad's ruined Elf on the Shelf for Christmas, and apparently he'd put it in the light fitting and the doll had fallen and it knocked all its face off.
Oh no!
Faceless elf on a shelf.
Oh God! I mean, honestly, I think that's the best thing that could happen to an elf on a shelf. That whole holiday panopticon shit. I'm not a fan.
Yes, I'd like to know which one of the elementals is behind that.
Oh, the knocking, you mean?
Bringing elves into people's houses and treating it as fun.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
probably the knocking as well. I mean, there's all kinds of weird. The Appalachians is just the whole backbone of weirdness from top to bottom, isn't it? It doesn't matter
100%.
which state it is. There's always something strange and scary going on wherever you are, from stories of feral blue-skinned people to Bigfoot to Dogman to disappearances, ghosts, hauntings. What isn't there in the Appalachians? And
we were talking on the live stream with some of our patrons about how that is when the Earth was one single landmass. When it was, during Pangea, the Appalachians was connected to what is now Scotland.
Yes.
And that region was part of the Appalachians, has its own sort of high strangeness, which sort of seems to point to the origin of this weirdness going back much, much longer than anyone ever really considered.
It's like Mount Doom, isn't it?
Just like Mount Doom. I'm telling you. If you told me that not George R. R. Martin, J.R.R. Tolkien.
A proper author, yes.
Yeah. The guy who actually finishes his books. If he was like channeling some kind of ancient, prehistory, I'd be like, sure, why not? Yep, 100%. Even old Georgie, I gotta say, I've never read any of his books. Well, I haven't read much of them. I'm not really a fantasy guy, but there is something about the worlds he creates that makes them feel like you're engaging with the history of another time.
Mm.
Even though, again, I'm not a big fan, I do think he's got this exceptional ability to establish a place which feels grounded. Even, I mentioned having played Elden Ring, and he was involved with the writing of that to a certain degree. He kind of wrote a lot of the history, I guess. And for all its faults, half the time you have no idea what the fuck is going on. The stuff, the lore itself is very rich and feels, again, like a weird prehistory. So he's got that knack for making something feel real.
Yeah, there's certainly depth to them, isn't there? It's very much like, is it L. Ron Howard, guy who wrote Conan? Is it L. Ron Howard?
No, it's L. Ron is Hubbard. Robert E. Howard?
That's it, Robert E. Howard. I've got my initial in the wrong part.
Although I'd be kind of curious to see L. Ron Hubbard's Conan. I think that'd be fascinating.
He gave it all up and became a Scientologist.
Money's a hell of a lot better.
Yeah. Have you seen that footage of the Scientology float at the Hollywood Christmas parade that's doing the rounds at the minute? And everybody in the streets booing them?
No, I haven't, but that's wonderful.
If it's not hard to find. I've seen it shared by hundreds of people in the last few days. So if you want to see the Scientologist Christmas float get booed in Hollywood, just go on Instagram, guys.
Oh man, that'd be like taking vitamins.
It's a bit strange. Why are they there? Do aliens believe in Christmas? Thetans? Is it part of the Thetan calendar?
They're probably struggling for membership. People are wising up to their nonsense.
I find that hard to believe.
Well,
it's because everybody's leaving to become a Raelian.
There you go. Yeah, they want to get some sun on that butthole and just jet off to the stars. Yep, that's it. They're all looking for ass magic. If Tom Cruise started pitching them ass magic, they'd have something.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be a 5th level Thetan anymore. Everybody wants that special arse mirror. It's the way forward for cults.
I would be curious to know if their membership is suffering, though. I would be interested to know that, just because...
Well, they're not going to tell us, are they?
Well, no, of course. Yeah.
They'll tell us they've got 5 trillion members.
Yeah,
across
everything
the
is fine,
universe.
says Department of Bullshit, you know.
Nothing to see here. Move along.
It's like when cops investigate themselves and find no evidence of wrongdoing. It's like, yeah, oh, really? Huh, that's a shock.
Yes. I remember once seeing an episode of Unsolved Mysteries where a police sergeant basically said that somebody had shot themselves 7 times in the head. And I thought, well, you might as well do this interview wearing your clan robes, mate, because it's quite obvious what's happened here, pal. Honestly. I mean, it's like 30 odd years ago, and it's, you know, it's as obvious as the nose on your face what went on there.
Brutal.
Hey.
Oh, man. Speaking of Unsolved Mysteries, actually, and you know, this weirdly connects to something I was going to bring up for this story. So this story, of course, is about some folks in a cabin in the woods. I just watched the new film Dream Eater, which is about a man suffering with parasomnia who his girlfriend takes him to a cabin in the woods to get away from work and get away from stress. And of course, you know, as always happens when you go to the woods, things get exponentially worse. But part of the plot, and it's a very serious film, and I think one of the mistakes they make is the boyfriend has a checkered family past, which he doesn't really know much about. All he knows is he's adopted, and that his biological parents are dead. So his partner, in trying to understand why he's feeling this way, and why he's having these insane parasomnias, she manages to find out his mother's birth mother's name rather, and Googles her, and she turns out to, you know, have this her own kind of very strange history, but it's presented through her watching an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. But of course, because they can't use Unsolved Mysteries, it's called like Unresolved Mysteries, and it's very clearly styled in the way of Unsolved Mysteries, including someone trying to sound like Robert Stack. And in that moment, what had been a pretty creepy horror movie suddenly goes into shtick. You cannot take it seriously. It'd be like if they watched an episode of Family Guy for clues. Like it just loses a certain gravitas.
Yeah, takes you out of it.
Yeah, but I will say the first half hour of Dream Eater are scary as shit. And it was shot in Quebec and reminded me of another found footage horror film, folks. If you want to check it out, it's called Curse of Aurore. Aurore. It's again very spotty in terms of quality, but just like Dream Eater, there are a couple of scenes which are genuinely terrifying. Only a couple, but some really great shit. So check out Dream Eater and Curse of Aurore, and be prepared for like mid movies with a couple A-level scenes.
Telluride. This particular story will begin in a small 4-story ski condo in Telluride, Colorado. While growing up, my family and I would always stay in the village of condos because it was directly across from a ski shop and a ski lift. It made it great access to the slopes off and on every morning or evening. And when you entered through the front door, you had to climb a first set of stairs to reach the kitchen and living room area. The kitchen was to the left and the living room on the right. And then another set of stairs went up to the second level, where the master bedroom and bath were located. Through a door to the right of that was another third set of stairs that led to a level with a bathroom. A final 4th set of stairs were where the 2 twin beds sat at the very top. It was a very memorable condo, because I was only 6 years old or so at that time, and I loved the stairs, which also included an open stairway, which gave me the ability to throw my dolls off and momentarily pretend they were flying. I hadn't learnt to ski just yet. One day, whilst I was playing on the second set of stairs in view of my mum, when I suddenly came down the stairs one at a time and said to her, "They keep talking." She looked up and said, "Who keeps talking?" "Them," I replied, pointing to the upstairs. Understand, I remember very little of the conversation with my mum. The only thing I remember from these events was the laughter muted by distance, but sounding like it was from a long tunnel. My mum grabbed me by the hand and took me back up the stairs to where we sat, just below that third set of stairs looking up. My mum tells me that she had started to say something to me when I said out loud, "Shh." Silence met her ears until she looked at me and asked, "Are they gone?" Needless to say, I stayed on that first level with the TV whilst my mum went and did some blessings around the condo. I'd love to say that the events ended right there and then, but it wasn't until I had turned to at least 15 before she told me what had happened later that evening whilst we were all asleep. My mum confided in me that she'd been having a nightmare that night, and she dreamt that she was viewing herself sleeping above us, and I was sleeping nearby in a kid's bed, and she could see that there were 3 people in the room. She described a woman with blonde hair and blue eyes sitting on her chest, and although she felt that this was a dream, she could feel her chest constricting as though a heavy weight were upon it. The other gentlemen were laughing around like it was the best entertainment they'd ever seen. All of them were Caucasian with blonde or dark hair. She forcefully woke herself up and stared around the empty room, sensing not a single thing. I'm not sure if her experience was caused by sleep paralysis, but when she questioned my grandfather about it later, he told her that there are some instances where they harass a race more than others. This was one of the scariest stories I've heard about my past alongside my mum. As I've gotten older, my experiences have become less and less, and I thank my dad's side of the family for this. But once in a while, my mum and I come across something that makes us shake our heads and continue on. Well, I'm not surprised. Telluride's renowned for being a haunted location, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah. I wonder if you could share some of that.
Well, it's one of those places with a lot of bloodshed, because I believe the Utes were there till the late 19th century and were essentially chased off the land by miners. And then it became one of those boom towns. You had loads of towns popping up all over the place. There's a wonderfully named ghost town round there called Tomboy, for some reason.
Okay.
Which I think's one of the best named ghost towns I've ever heard of. And so there's just ghosts, it seems, at every turn around Telluride, because it seems to have that kind of violent birth into the modern age. And so there's loads. I think there's a famous hotel there called the Columbia Hotel, I think it is one of their more notorious ones, with a few phantoms wandering around its aisle. But it does seem to be a very haunted little town.
Colorado itself, like it just, I don't know if it's the mountains or what, it is a very haunted place, as just generally speaking.
It's terrifyingly beautiful, especially in winter. I mean, if you look at the pictures of Telluride, it's incredible what surrounds it. Those mountains are just amazing. It's phenomenal. And Colorado's full of that. But you wouldn't expect anything else, would you? I mean, you know, when you've got an airport filled with aliens underneath it, why wouldn't there be haunted towns in Colorado?
Of course, how could I forget?
Even lizard people like to ski.
God, well, they're welcome to it. I tried it once and I hated it with the fire of 1,000 suns. You could not get me on that mountain at gunpoint.
It's never something I've attempted.
You're not missing anything. You know what? Put your feet in vices and then just have someone put you on the front of a car driving far too fast while ice and snow blast into your face. That is skiing. It is terrible.
Everything I learnt about skiing, I learnt from Snow Beast.
You know what? If a giant monster had torn me in half at the end of the run, I would have considered it a wonderful release, because it meant I wouldn't have to go back up the hill. While we're on the subject of Colorado, I want to give a shout out to Ghost Walk Durango and our listener, Joe Nelson. Joe operates Ghost Walk Durango out there in Durango, Colorado. He's actually sent us a story, which we're going to share on an upcoming Listener Stories episode. And should you ever want to do a ghost walk in or near Durango, Colorado, Joe's your man. That's Ghost Walk Durango. And Paul, you and I, stepping away from the story for a second, you and I had a very strange little moment, which is probably just technical, nonsensory. It happens. But during the segment where we were speaking about Indrid Cold,
my mate Indrid.
Yeah, your buddy Indrid. I had a very odd feeling as the conversation progressed. And then my wireless headphones suddenly started messing with your voice. And everything sounded like a weird robot alien sound. It was just this weird audio effect on your voice that I've never heard before. I've only had those headphones for about 2 months, So, you know, not impossible. It's just a glitch with them, and I'm sure that's probably all it was. But the timing of it was A, suspect, and B, deeply fucking creepy.
That's actually my true form.
But that I believe.
Once I mentioned the Overlord, my vocal synthesizer stops working for a few moments.
Oh, God. Yeah, it was creepy as shit, man. Goddamn.
And then he turned up.
He was a really nice guy, as it turns out.
Good for him. He's always smiling, that lad.
And the other thing that's kind of bizarre is you were telling me about a show in the break called, what was it again?
Mission Unexplained.
Mission Unexplained. Yeah, it's an 8-episode TV series that you said explores military stories of high strangeness.
Yes, from all over the world. There's even a story from a Russian soldier. And
how did you come across it? Or how did you come to find it?
It just randomly pops up on occasion. Clearly, my television is learning because it was suggested. It was a suggestion for me. Clearly said, oh, well, he's watched all the other weird shit we show, but he's not seen this. Why have you not watched this? And so I think I caught an episode at the end of it when I was just flicking. I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. And so I added it, and then I got all the episodes just appeared in my playlist. And so I watched it in a couple of nights because the episode's like 45 minutes long. There's 3 encounters in each one. There's some really weird stuff in there, I have to say. Some very strange experiences. There's stories from Japan, Guam, Russia, the States, Canada, Europe. So it's intriguing. There's a couple that you can probably say, as I said to you when I was talking about it, there's a couple that you would suggest, yeah, it's sleep paralysis, that. But there's others where, like, what the Russian guy talks about, one of his comrades just starts running into the woods after these lights that seem to be calling them, shouting his dead father's name. Going, Papa, Papa, and just sets off. But they're actually on patrol at the time because they're trying to deal with the Chechen rebellion at the time. So they know that there's armed forces in there, and he's running about shouting, Dad, Dad. And so they have to try and chase him down before he runs off or runs into the Chechens and gets murdered or kidnapped or something. So it's intriguing. It really is. There's some really good stuff.
How did that resolve? Did the guy find his way back, or did they manage to recover him?
They managed to catch up with him. And as he was there, he was just basically, they grabbed him because he dropped his pack and his gun. So he was basically running unarmed at night through the woods, chasing these lights, shouting, Papa, Papa. And then they caught up with him and just held him, and the lights kind of went and blinked out. And then he kind of regained his senses and was like, what, why am I here?
So he didn't offer any explanation for what he might have seen or why he was calling his father's name?
He saw his father.
Oh, he did actually say he saw his father.
His father was saying, come with me.
Good God, now that's scary.
So that was intriguing, because little lights dancing in the woods, because they all saw the lights, but he was the one that seemed to be connected to it. The rest of them saw him and thought it was odd, but he had the kind of experience with it where it visualised in some way to him, and therefore he was led away by the fairies, you could suggest, or the lights.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like he was the weak link.
Maybe that's why it got him. You're probably right there. It might be some kind of psychological weakness. He might have still been grieving. He might have been scared at being a soldier in a dangerous situation, and therefore that was their in.
Man, that is chilling.
Yeah, but it was good. It was well made. It wasn't overly... I mean, sometimes you get these sillily, overly dramatic recreations in them. But on the whole, I'm glad I watched it. I learnt some things.
That's cool. And in a bizarre coincidence, speaking of the reenactments, when you told me about it, I looked it up on IMDb, and the first thing I saw was that one of the actors in one of the reenactments was the guy I met at iSorv Cinema in Toronto a couple months back when I went to their Indie Horror Fest. He's the guy I ended up going for beers with, him and his wife, and another guy, because they were in the film The Wildman Massacre. And not only that, they gave me the Sasquatch ornament that I just sent to you. So you watched this TV show having just received an ornament, a gift from that guy. How fucking weird is that?
Synchronicity is amazing, isn't it?
It really is.
I put it all down to my new tarot deck.
There we go. That works. Well, we're going to play some ads so you too can maybe get a tarot deck, although probably not. It's probably some AI bullshit. But either way, we'll be right back. Up the mountain. This happened in December of 2008. I was on vacation with two of my friends in Manali. We traveled out on the 11th and planned to return by the 16th. We were using a borrowed Mahindra Scorpio. It was a bit battered, but the engine and chassis were still fine, so it was all right. And just for anyone who's unclear, this takes place in India. Once we got to Manali, the trip to Rohtang from Manali was a spur-of-the-moment thing. We started out late, sometime around 12:15 p.m. We hardly realized that in winter the snow would be so high up, and it took us nearly 3 hours to reach the snowfield. Even then, we had to walk about 1 kilometer on foot to reach it. Since the air is really thin so high up, it was nearly 4:45 before we commenced our journey back down, thoroughly exhausted. Just short of halfway down, our front passenger tire went flat. I think we were about 8 kilometers short of Golabo, a small hamlet en route to Rohtang. To compound the problem, we discovered to our chagrin that the spare had no air in it, even though I myself had checked it before we began our journey. Maybe it had a minor leak or whatever. The thing is, we were stranded, and we couldn't leave the car behind because it was borrowed. At first we waited, hoping that one of the few Scorpios we had seen would be coming down, and maybe they would lend us a spare tire. However, the already thin out-of-season traffic became a trickle as the light faded quickly past 5:30 p.m. So both of my friends hitched a ride with the next taxi that passed us with a flat tire, while I remained behind. My second friend was feeling nauseous and had a severe headache, all symptoms of high-altitude sickness. So I insisted he accompany my first friend down. Ironically, I wryly observed I would be perfectly safe inside the vehicle, as no one would have enough breath to rob me, this high up in the wilderness. After they'd gone, I set up reflectors on both ends of the vehicle to warn other approaching cars, since the road isn't that wide. Thereafter, I came and slid down on the back seat of the Scorpio. I had locked it for precaution, and wrapped my arms around myself and just lay back. It was nearly 6 p.m. Since I'd been on high-altitude treks before, I was well clothed for Rohtang. So even though it was dreadfully cold at -7 and going down, I felt it would be fine. I don't know when I fell asleep, but when I came to, it was nearly 8 p.m. I knew it was going to be difficult to get a taxi that late, but this was getting ridiculous. Then I heard a rasping sound, which I cannot explain. I peered outside as best I could all around, but couldn't make anything out since the windows were all fogged up and the wind was really shrieking, as is often the case at high altitudes in winter, especially after the sun goes down. Putting down the sound to the wind, I fell back again, peering blankly towards the front windscreen, hoping my friends would soon return, since I was now really cold and very hungry. While I was peering blankly at the windscreen, a large portion of it frosted up, but then just as quickly defrosted. I heard the rasping sound again. This happened in quick succession a number of times. At this moment, I was just curious. Sometimes long hours in extreme conditions at high altitudes can dull the mind, so I propped myself up and became more attentive. However, this time the same thing happened by the driver's window. So I cleaned the rear window behind the driver's seat as best I could and peered outside, but I could make out nothing. I was about to step out thinking there may be some kind of leak from the engine that was responsible for this phenomenon, when the same thing happened again to the window I'd been peering outside just a moment ago. This really freaked me out. Then it happened again, but for longer at the rear window, and this time I detected a faint, suppressed growl, along with the rasping noise. It stopped briefly and then started again, and it was focused for some time on the front windscreen. Each time, it frosted and defrosted with a rasping and growling. Each time it repeated itself, the duration of the frosting increased, while that of the defrosting lessened. I was really afraid now. Initially, I thought maybe it was an animal. Even allowing for poor visibility, what kind of animal could cause this over and above the bonnet of the car without making some kind of noise on the body of the vehicle itself? Maybe it was some kind of phenomenon owing to comparably warmer temperature inside and extreme cold outside. I'm sure I heard the sounds I described earlier. I was still debating when the frost almost covered the entire windscreen for an interminably long time and seemed to be seeping inside. I don't know why, but I suddenly screamed with all my might and pounded with my fists and palms on the windscreen. It defrosted instantly. For some time there was nothing except intense cold and shrieking wind. I sat with my arms wrapped around me, in the middle of the back seat, away from the windows. I heard a louder growl this time, with rasping noise from the rear. I repeated my actions, screaming and pounding, even though there was no frost on the rear window. Nothing happened for what seemed like an eternity, but was probably a few minutes. Then the front windscreen started frosting up really quickly and heavily, with the frost seeping inside. I screamed and pounded, but even though this time it defrosted again, there was a distinctly loud growl, and the whole vehicle shook. This went on for what seemed like an eternity. Different windows would frost up really fast, I would scream and pound, there would be a loud growl and heightened rasping, and the whole vehicle would shake. By the end, I was sweating like crazy. My arms were raw red with all the pounding, and my voice was almost gone. Cracks had appeared on nearly all the windows. It was nearly midnight when my friend arrived in another taxi with a mechanic who changed our flat tire with help from the taxi driver. When my friend pounded on the window to get me to open up, I nearly broke the window with my own pounding, as I could no longer scream. There are no words to describe my relief when I saw my friend's face. So much so that I gave no thought to his well-being, but apparently whatever it was seemed to only be interested in me. It was the mechanic who drove us down. My friend was aghast at my state and the state of the vehicle's windows. I couldn't speak except in a croaking voice for nearly a week, which was a good thing because I didn't want to speak anymore. When I did tell my friends, they were perplexed and astounded. We were the ones who spent a night at Bangar, supposedly the most haunted place in India, to show that it wasn't all that. We regularly trek and camp at desolate, even scary places. But what happened to me that night was unbelievable. Even now, I would sooner believe that it never happened than face up to what I actually experienced. And that is, I think, a high watermark for creepy, weird shit on this show, because the combination of extreme temperatures and remoteness, because that is a very remote area, especially in winter.
Do you know what Rotang Pass means?
I do indeed, but tell the fine folks what it means.
Pile of corpses.
Yes. Yes. Apparently, Ro is corpse and Tang is plain. It is a truly terrifying road. Very, very narrow. We're talking about, Turkey. This is one of those roads that you see on some TV show about truckers who want to kill themselves but can't quite bring themselves to do it, so they drive that road instead, just hoping for God to take them.
I mean, the other thing you're going to be aware of there is that there have been a smattering of Yeti sightings along there.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. That's what everybody forgets. The Yeti covers all parts of the Himalayas, which obviously go down into India.
Of course. Yeah.
Because that's where Peter Bren started.
Interesting. How so?
Because Peter Bren was originally, after he left the Royal Air Force, he was stationed out in India and he became the manager of tea plantations. And so he was a hunter.
Oh, okay.
Dealing with the tigers. And Bern's one of those people who became a hunter and then changed to a conservationist because of it.
Oh, okay.
And this was all part of this period. And at that point, he started hearing the local Indians talking about Yeti, or the hairy man of the mountain, coming down. And he saw footprints in the snow and in some of the plantations. And it was that started his journey into it. And obviously, Bern at first was a Yeti hunter. And that's where he met Tom Slick. And Tom Slick and Peter Bern met because of the Yeti. And it was that cemented their relationship. And that's why Bern ended up moving to America and became a Bigfooter.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, I had no idea.
So, yeah, that's how Peter Bern started his cryptid career in India.
Interesting. Well, I mean, this sounds like maybe not a Yeti. This sounds almost something smaller, because if you think like it's sort of not visible, although it could be that it's, I was thinking small, like small enough not to be seen over the door of a car. But now that I say that, I wonder if it was something non-physical or something that was not visible to the naked eye at all.
I mean, this is the thing. It's one of those regions, as we were saying earlier when I was talking about the upcoming interview I've done covering Pashto folklore and legend, that if you talk about the Himalayas, the only thing most people will know about is Yetis. And I am sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that there will be all kinds of weird and wonderful creatures and entities that lurk in its hidden highways and dark mountain passes awaiting for unsuspecting travellers of all shapes and sizes. So who knows? I don't know enough about the region's folklore beyond the Yeti. So I suspect with a bit more digging, we might have a look and see if there's something that we can perhaps postulate could be responsible. It might have been a baby Yeti, who knows? A Yeti, what do you call it? What would it be called? A Yetis? A Yeti? I don't know.
A Yetling?
A Yetling? Cub?
Cub, yeah.
I'll see if they mention it in Troll 2, which I'm going to watch tomorrow.
I watched it last night.
Yes. Did you enjoy it?
I did. I preferred the first film, but I enjoyed it.
Isn't it strange how, once again, a friend of ours, Steve Shred...
I was just about to say that, yes.
That story is amazing, that his son fell in love with the first film and has become a troll obsessive, and so sent the director some letters and pictures, and he's named one of the characters after him. How cool is that?
It is so cool. Yeah, Steve Shred, of course, he's a Canadian horror author. He's a friend of the show. And very, not just a talented guy, but a very nice guy. Steve is just a very sweet dude, very genuine dude. You know, like you and I were talking off air about people who are kind of like maybe not as genuine as they could be. And Steve is just the opposite of that. Steve is what you see is what you get. And he is he's a great guy. Steve is genuinely a great guy. I've been able to meet him in person. Built like a brick shithouse.
I was about to say he is a man mountain.
Holy
a gentle
Christ.
Giant.
Yes, absolutely. I gave him a hug the first time I met him, and it was genuinely like hugging a brick wall. It was yeah. I made a joke about it, and I don't think he knew how to take it. But I was like, "This is a compliment. You are a force of nature." But yeah, his son Oren is himself kind of a miracle. We covered his book Color of Melancholy, yes. Steve's autobiography, a few years back, and Oren almost didn't survive, and neither did Steve's wife. It was a very, very close call all around, and he is just an enormously talented young man. Oren, he's still very young. I want to say 6, something like that. But he draws. He actually makes little films. Steve has shared some little films that Oren has made. Just a talented little dude. And I have no doubt that when you and I are arm wrestling in the old folks' home, we're going to see on the news that Oren Stred's latest film is out, or whatever passes for entertainment in the far-flung future.
Yeah, well, all the best people nearly die when they're born, Brennan. It's a fact,
That's
mate.
True.
Or are supposed to be dead.
Yeah, there you go.
So, yeah. He's in good company there. But it's also weird because, obviously, Fred Anderson, the Swedish Fortean, who's been on my show, is also friends with the director, and they've been talking to each other on Facebook as well about it.
Oh,
and how
no
they
shit.
work. Because Fred does a lot of work. Fred's just been working on the Swedish version of Uncanny. Floodwaters. I was born and raised in New Orleans, and Hurricane Katrina hit the summer after my senior year of high school. This story takes place 2 Christmas Eves after, outside the swanky lakefront condo where I was currently living. And that was only good because for a good while after Katrina, the whole city suffered from an epidemic of vacant luxury apartments. Those brave few of us who had come back early enough that you could still smell the inside of everyone's refrigerator when you drove down the street were able to live pretty much wherever we wanted for insanely cheap prices. Before the lakefront condo, I'd been paying £200 a month to rent a 2-bedroomed apartment on Magazine Street, which is currently going for 8 times that. I only moved to the lakefront condo because it was cheaper, if you can believe it. My mum was still living over in Baton Rouge by this time, and my younger sister had wanted to see the extended family for Christmas, so she was crashing with me that night. Even though she was in her late teens by this point, it had been a rough past few years, and my mum wanted to surprise my sister with Christmas presents as she woke up upon the morning. And this is how I ended up spending most of that Christmas Eve night driving all the way back to Baton Rouge. My trunk now full of rat presents and my sister's dog May May in the passenger seat, panting with anticipation. This was during like the whole 2 weeks of winter we get here each year, and I remember it was cold enough that night that there was snow on the I-10. For a lifelong NOLA native, that sight alone was pretty surreal. I finally got back to the condo at about 3 a.m. and had parked out front instead of inside the parking garage to make it easier to unload the car. I called my girlfriend to confirm that my sister was fast asleep and was waiting for her to come down and take May May so I could safely sneak those presents up. I wanted to save my girlfriend time and meet her at the entrance to the complex, so I clipped May May's leash to her collar and we exited the car. We had just started towards the building when it happened. Now, you need to understand that May May is one of the sweetest dogs ever. Whenever she sees literally anybody, her tail starts wagging because she knows there's at least an off chance she might get attention. I'd never heard May May growl for real until that moment, and it took me a second to realise it was even her making that noise. My gaze was on the building's entrance when the growling started, and I looked down just in time to see May May stop dead in her tracks and then hunch down so low her belly was almost touching the ground. She was looking towards the vacant lot bordering the left side of the condo complex, and I reflexively turned to follow her line of sight. I saw a crying woman standing there, just beyond the corner of the building. She was in her 30s and had vaguely curly blonde hair, barefoot, and wearing only a white t-shirt that was long enough to resemble a nightgown. The woman was sobbing, and normally, if I were to see a half-naked woman sobbing in the middle of the night, I'd like to think my first reaction would be to try and help her. But there was something about the sound of May May's growl that had sent a chill up my spine, and when I spotted the woman, I froze in place as alarm bells began to go off from what I felt like the most primitive parts of my brain. And as soon as she saw me, we locked eyes, and this woman let out the most blood-chilling scream I had ever heard. If you've ever seen that recent Ring camera footage of a car driving by someone's house with a possible female kidnap victim in the passenger seat, this woman's scream sounded a lot like that. She pointed out at the lake in front of her and behind me, and the scream that seemed to go on forever. It was even longer than you'd think someone could scream. And then she was gone. She didn't fade away. It wasn't even like I blinked and she'd vanished. She was simply there 1 minute, and then she wasn't. Her scream cut off just as suddenly, but the sound of it was still ringing in my ears. About a week later, one of the maintenance men told me that before Katrina, a homeless couple with 2 kids used to live out of an old shed that had been abandoned on that vacant field between the complex and the neighbouring building. Of course, they'd never been seen since the hurricane, and like many of the city's homeless, were presumed dead. And of course, my description of that screaming woman I saw matched the mother of this homeless family exactly, down to her slightly curly blonde hair and the long t-shirt she wore like a dress. This led me to conclude that she hadn't been pointing at the lake. She'd been pointing at the floodwaters.
Woof, man. I forgot how dark that one was.
Ooh, not half, mate.
And folks, if you want a incredible but harrowing history lesson on Hurricane Katrina, Spike Lee's documentary, When the Levees Broke. It is 4 parts. It's very long, but incredible filmmaking.
Yes.
He had a couple documentaries from that time, that and 4 Little Girls, both very, very powerful documentaries.
I'm trying to think of a film where somebody gets locked in a crypt in New Orleans. What's that?
Double Jeopardy. Ashley Judd's character gets locked in a crypt.
That's it, yes. Yeah. Isn't Angel Art a bit of that set in New Orleans as well?
I believe so, yeah. And coincidentally, Double Jeopardy, there was a scene shot in Revelstoke. Yeah, there's just one scene. It's the exterior shot of the courthouse, but the courthouse is the Revelstoke courthouse. Yeah, they shot there for 2 weeks. It was our town's big claim to fame.
I think Angel Heart was the first time I'd ever seen New Orleans.
Oh, okay. That's a hell of a film too, folks. That's a much better film than Double Jeopardy. Watch Angel Heart. Do not watch. I mean, you can watch Double Jeopardy, but it's bad.
I had to say I'd avoided that film for so long because people said Oh, you'll love that film. So I didn't watch that till I was about 30.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know anything. I knew who was in it, and I kind of had an idea. And obviously when De Niro turns up and says what his name is, I'm thinking, well, I'm not like Mickey Rourke here. I'm a bit switched on, mate. Because as soon as he says that, firstly, if somebody sat in front of me eating an egg like that, I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then secondly, I'd be like, that's a catchy name. That's odd. My middle name's Damien. Hey, we've got something in common here, pal.
Yeah,
Lucy?
Mr. Beelzebub. Mr.
Mr. D.
Saitan.
Evil.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a film. And the twist at the end. I kind of clocked it about 5 minutes before it happened, and I thought, is this what I... Oh, masterful. Alan Parker at his finest.
Yep. Watch Angel Heart. Do not watch Double Jeopardy.
It's not that bad.
It's fine. It's fine. The one interesting thing about Double Jeopardy, yeah, I think, aside from just the fact that it was, they shot the courtroom scene in Revelstoke, and when they showed it in theaters in Revelstoke, the whole fucking theater went crazy when the courthouse appeared. And for until the video store closed, the VHS copy of it had a little strip of tape on the box saying "partially shot in Revelstoke." But what I find fascinating about Double Jeopardy is, if I'm not mistaken, it came out on the same weekend as Fight Club.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Fight Club was considered to be a colossal failure at the time because it was massively outgrossed by Double Jeopardy. But culturally, what do we remember? It's not fucking Double Jeopardy. So it's funny how that works. As a giant nerd about movie box office stuff, it always drives me crazy when people will judge the quality of something by its relative, box office, because quite often that means nothing. Like, cultural cachet is a whole other thing. And initial success, financial success, is often secondary in terms of whether or not something has any lasting impact.
Yes. I remember a similar argument where I used that kind of riposte to the point that was stupidly being made to me, where someone was belittling my choice of bourbon and saying, oh, you should drink Maker's Mark, it's the most popular in America. And I said, well, last year the Spice Girls were the biggest selling band in America. So does that mean they're the best band in the world? And they went, and I went, there you are then, bye.
What bourbon were you drinking?
JD.
Okay, well, that's not really an improvement.
Maker's
but
Mark's all right until you drink it. Because the bottles look brill with the melted wax seal lids.
Yeah, JD's not even good when you look at it. I don't know. I'm not a great fan of Tennessee whiskey, but that's fine. I will. Just
their politics.
Yeah. Yeah. What do I got?
Yeehaw!
Folks, if you want a good bourbon, I mean, if you're listening to this in Canada, you're not going to be able to find it. But if you're down in the States, you want a good bourbon, check out Booker's. Booker's is a very lovely bourbon. All the other shit I could tell you, you're going to know. Buffalo Trace. Everyone knows Buffalo Trace. Knob Creek. You guys all know that shit. But yeah, Booker's is really good. It's got a nice bite to it, we'll say. It's good shit.
I'll keep my eye out for that.
All right. Well, that's going to do it. With the promise of bourbon in the distance. I've actually got some bullet in the kitchen. I've been rationing it, so maybe I'll have a little bit of that after we're done. But with the promise of bourbon in my kitchen, we draw our In the Haunted Midwinter episode to a close. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, we hope you've enjoyed it. If you have a midwinter story, send it to us. ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. Or you can find us. We are on Instagram as The Ghost Story Guys. We're on Facebook as The Ghost Story Guys Finally Made a Group. And we are on Reddit as r/Ghost Story Guys Podcast.
Make sure if you have a drink, though, you pour a glass for Indrid.
Yeah, I'll be doing that. I'll tell you that for nothing. Leave some out for your ancestors and the unseen guests.
He likes a small bourbon and a mince pie.
I can meet him halfway. I can't help him with the mince pie.
Boo!
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with our Ghost Force shoutouts. Hey there, listeners.
Before you reach for that skip 15 seconds ahead button, I promise you this isn't an ad. We wanted to take a minute to talk to you about mental health. On this show, I've always tried to be as honest and open as possible about my struggles with depression and anxiety, because even though we've come a long way towards acknowledging the very real damage these things can do, there is still way too much lingering stigma about reaching out for help. And when you start to feel like there's no help, it's easy to start feeling like there's no hope. But Paul has joined me today to remind you there is always hope and there's always help.
We're not going to try and talk you out of self-harming right now, because we know that's not how it works. Instead, what we wanted to do was tell you something now and hope that should things get bad, you'll remember it and make a phone call or send a text message before you make any permanent decisions. As someone who knows all too well just how important mental health can be, it's never too late to reach out.
In Canada, the number to call is 133-456-4566.
In the USA, the new number to call is 988. That's 988.
In the UK, the number to call is 116123 or text SHOUT, that's SHOUT, to 85258. In Australia, the number to call is 131114.
However bad shit seems, it will pass. And no matter what your brain might be telling you at any given moment, and believe me when I say I know this intimately, there are people who love you and people who care deeply about how you treat yourself. Should a time come when you find yourself despairing, please know that we've both been where you are, and there is a way back to the world. Take care.
Welcome back. Big thanks to Luke Greensmith for helping us find the stories on this one. Luke is, of course, the host of the Luke Lore podcast, which you can find everywhere fine podcasts live and at lukelore.com.
Our paranormal conductor is Mr. Brennan Storr.
And, of course, my friend and co-host is the one, the only, the inimitable Paul Bestel, the paranormal Johnny Carson himself, host of Mysteries and Monsters. Paul, what's coming up on M&M?
You'll have to speak to my agent now. I've been it 14 times, sorry.
Colonel Tom Parker, what's coming up on M&M?
Well, now, what's going down there on that there mystery monster on that interwebby thing?
I'm so sorry, folks. I brought this on us. I should have. As soon as I said Colonel Tom, I thought I should have known that was coming.
I don't even know if he sounded like that because I don't care.
I have no idea either. But that's exactly what I would have done. So that's how we knew.
Yes, so it's a strange week. We are delving into the strange, perhaps real life story of Patterson and Gimlin after the film came out, as the director Eric Feltman joins me to dive into the upcoming documentary drama weirdness film that they're planning. So we have a chat about that and why this story's always enticed him. And then we hot-foot it across to southern Asia for the first time as we dive in to some legends of the Pashto. And I speak to authors Shahrazad Laila and Komal Salman about their brilliant book Heartstrings of the Khyber, which is the first time most of these stories have been translated into English. And so it's a fascinating and eye-opening conversation where we realise that there are far more things that tie us together than pull us apart.
I cannot wait for that show because I know nothing about the folklore of that region. I worked for a South Asian guy for a while back on the newspaper, long time ago. But aside from, and it was eye-opening as far as the culture goes, but I know nothing about their paranormal culture.
It's nice to realise there's far more to it than just jinns.
Absolutely. And where can everyone find you online?
You can find Mysteries and Monsters across most social media platforms and all podcast aggregators, good or bad.
Fabulous. I'm Largely the Truth on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd. And you can find my horror fiction show, Fear Daily, everywhere fine podcasts live. You can also find me reading audiobooks on Amazon or Audible, I guess you'd say. You can find me reading my book, as well as These Haunted Times Volume 5 by Ruth Roper Wilde. And of course, I'm about halfway through recording These Haunted Times Volume 6. So that should be out sooner rather than later, and I'm very excited to get that out into the world because, frankly, it's another great goddamn book from Ruth.
Absolutely.
And of course, as we said at the top of the show, none of this would be possible without our patrons, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube subscribers. You folks are the real MVPs. We've said this before. The economy is in a terrible place right now. We know a lot of folks have had to drop out, and that is okay. We still love you. We get it. Trust us. We will be here when things start to tick back up again. But if you do have some spare cash kicking around, you want to help support what we do, help keep the lights on, click the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. That's patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. You get early ad-free release, bonus conversations between myself and Paul, extra spooky shows. I just did one reading an article about the curse of Milnerfield Manor. You get access to our monthly live stream and so much more. Again, you get all of that by clicking the link in the show notes, heading to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, or becoming a friend of the cabin on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. And of course, if you support the show at the $20 level, that makes you a very particular kind of crazy. That makes you, in fact, our favorite kind of crazy. That makes you part of a little something that we like to call Ghost Force. That's right. Patrons who support us at the $20 level and above become part of Ghost Force. And even when you leave, you can't really leave. We're kind of like a gang that way. Blood in, blood out. Nope, too far. You're just part of a really cool club and we appreciate you very, very much. This time around, the members of Ghost Force are
Nathan Saragold,
Amy Chamberlain,
Crazy Mom Canada,
CT,
Dextrous,
Eric Abel,
Hannah Brown,
Jay Moores,
Janani Bananani,
Jennifer Mullen,
Joseph Como,
Liam Hudock,
Mara Noriega,
Mark Zembler,
Merlin Hanson,
Michelle Randall,
Peter Guns 08.5,
Robin Teen,
Rocking Ronnie Shenanigans,
Shannon Steyer,
Trash Panda Kid,
and Trent Cutter.
Ooh.
You are the few. You are the spooky. You are doomed forever to walk with me and the ghost of Christmas past here. You are Ghost Force. For real, guys. Again, we appreciate you so much. We appreciate all our patrons, of course, but Ghost Force, you guys are a particular breed of nuts, and again, we love you for it. Thank you to everyone who has been a member of Ghost Force, past and present. It means the world to us. Paul, my friend, do you have any guest spots coming up?
Yes, I will be appearing on Into the Fray in the near future when we've rearranged the date, which
All
I'm
right.
quite glad about because it's been a busy week, because this is my fourth show of the week, and it's Thursday.
Holy shit. Okay, I love how you take breaks.
Well, you know, that's the joy of mental illness, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
If I stop, I might die.
No, I get it. I feel much the same way, so I very much understand. That's why we work so well together. We're broken in the same ways.
Exactly, we're like a jigsaw that fits together.
Exactly this.
Yes, and that's why I've decided to teach myself tarot, because there's not enough hours in the day already filled.
No, that's it. You got to throw a few more things in there. I think the tarot thing is good, though. Actually, I think that's a part of yourself that is good to sort of get in touch with, to commune with, so to speak.
Yes, I think after our conversation the other night, it gave me the kick up the arse to reconnect to my childhood talent.
Good. Oh, I'm glad it had a positive impact, my friend.
You always do, my friend.
Well, thank you. As for me, I was recently on an episode of Where Did the Road Go? It just came out. It's about dreams. That one has finally gone public. And I just recorded one about shadow people that will be out probably about a month's time, thereabouts. And as always, you can find both mine and Paul's guest appearances linked in the blog at ghoststoryguys.com. Our theme song, Radio, Into the Darkness We Go, is composed and performed by Peter Kursov of Pizzanta Music. Find more from him by searching for Pizzanta Music wherever you get your tunes. And I think that's going to do it.
We'll be back next week. But until then,
Into the darkness we go. I realized I didn't record the first bit with the iPad, so some of it's going to sound real bad. That's fine.
I presume you're aware of Top Cat,
No.
the cartoon. No?
Nope.
It's a Hanna-Barbera. It's a big one from the 60s. But the BBC tied themselves in knots because when it was released at the same time a brand of cat food was available in the United Kingdom, also called Top Cat. And so the BBC were obviously therefore convinced themselves that by not changing the title of this song, it would be classed as advertising, which is illegal on the BBC. And therefore, they made up a whole new title sequence and changed the word of Top Cat to Boss Cat, even changing the song, which made it even seem, it make very little sense. Because then you were wondering, hang on, what? This song doesn't seem to refer to bosses. It seems to somebody being the top. What? Because they only changed the word boss, top to boss. So then loads of kids in Britain grow up thinking the show's called Boss Cat, and everybody else around the world's like, what the fuck are you on about, you stupid bastards? It's Top Cat. And then the story of why came out. Now it's called Top Cat again. But honestly, that's the problems they've always caused themselves. It's just the most stupid minutiae they worry about. Jimmy Savile? No, don't worry about him. He's fine. Top Cat? Fucking hell, we're not having that on telly. There was one guy who was tagged as part of it, and they tagged him. The security team came round, tagged him, and they tagged his wooden leg, his prosthetic leg.
Jesus Christ.
He wasn't supposed to leave the house after 8 o'clock, so all he used to do was take his leg off and put his spare on and go to the pub. And that's true. I know that for a fact because that happened in Doncaster when I was working in that sector.
Jesus Christ.
I have no recollection of doing that, mate.
Oh, really?
I may have just done it by accident, but I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah, all of a sudden Dumbleton Hall was highlighted. I'm like, oh, did I fuck up the name or something?
Maybe I was just going, I wonder what that is.
Oh, okay.